Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to finish stripping the parts Durango. So I got a lot of good parts off of this car, but I need the rear lower control arms so I can make adjustable lower control arms for the Charger. So the Trackhawk lower control arms are currently on the Charger, but these are the same. So Durango, it doesn't matter if it's a Hellcat, it doesn't matter if it's Trackhawk, they all utilize the same lower control arm in the rear. I think they all utilize the same lower control arm in the front as well, but need the rear ones, and then I can make the adjustable lower control arms for the Charger. But since I had to bring it in to take the, I probably didn't need to bring it in, but I wanted to kind of assess the damage and see if I could find any more good parts on this thing because it is hit pretty hard. So let's get everything out of this thing. I want to get the engine out of this, the tranny. The tranny is actually, I mean, it is crazy how bad it is. In the transfer case in there, hopefully I get some good stuff, but it looks like the diff in the back, when I was jacking it up to put it on the lift, it almost looks like the diff is broken in there. So hopefully I have some good stuff on this, but it looks like the lower control arms are fine. I'll assess them once I get them off, make sure they aren't bent or anything, but the rear suspension and all the rear stuff looked fine. I just think the diff might have broke because the drive shaft had so much force in it. So all the tranny stuff back there is just, it's crazy how bad it is. Like the exhaust is hanging down like a foot. So let's get this thing apart and go from there. I want to get the side skirt off the other side as well. It's kind of good, so I could probably sell it. I have some glass in here. I'll probably leave those in for now. And then the quarter panels on this are actually good, which is nice. And on this side and the other side, and also the whole hatch hoop like I did on the Durango Hellcats. Finished pulling all the suspension and the engine, everything out of the front of the Durango. I must say this thing took a super hard hit. So you could just see how far pushed back all this is. The firewall is supposed to be around here, but it's like rolled in. Then down here, the drive shaft broke in half, hit a bunch of stuff, and it's just surprising that the floor is just buckled. I mean, it's like bowed. Look at that. It's like bowed. You can see all the buckles in the frame right there, that frame rail. And then this one seems like it's pretty straight compared. This isn't even touching the lift anymore. And then this upper control arm, I couldn't get it out because this strut tower is pushed back. This one over here, you can't even get anything out of it because it's so smashed in there. But everything on this was like 75%. Actually, the short block probably would have been like 95%, but I left it sitting outside with no hood on it, and the intake manifold was broken. So we have a pretty decent short block. This thing I think had like 30,000 miles is what it said, but some water got in there, caused a little bit of surface rust. I cleaned it up, but you can still kind of see it. But if this thing ran, it'd clear all that out. But I have this listed pretty cheap. Also, transfer case. This thing, the oil drain plug like something hit it and it broke it off and shot it out and then smashed the case a little bit. So I could get that rear case, but I don't really know if I want to, because I don't know if these are, you know, I don't know. I don't want to fix this and then be, you know, just have it sitting around forever. I might just, you know, sell it for a couple $100 as a good transfer case that needs some work. Same thing with the front diff. The front diff is pretty decent. This piece right here bolts on, so that's a pretty simple piece to get, which I may end up getting that. I think that's like $75, and this diff is useless to me because it's like a 345. But yeah, everything is like really almost 100% good, but not really. So we have both of the heads, which they would have been good, but the intake manifold, because it was plastic, it broke and then it sucked some of it in, so some of the intake valves are bent. So I listed these for like, you know, a couple $100 a piece as good cores with low miles, because the camshafts are good, all the valve train's good, and really it just needs a few valves and they'd be perfect heads. So if I was ever going to do anything with a V6, it'd be really nice to keep them around, but I'm not. So I'll just sell them for really cheap, and then we'll just go from there. I also got some front suspension parts, which the lower control arms are the same, I'm pretty sure, as the Hellcat stuff. The knuckles are different. This driver's side knuckle, I listed it as like a maybe because it had the upper control arm thing ripped out on the control arm side. So I don't know if it might have some stress issues. So I just put that in the ad that's a, you know, use at your own risk. But then I have all this right hand stuff. I also have starter, alternator, and the tranny cooler. The tranny is like surprising. It is broke in half, and like it's like a big gap. So I have the exhaust. The exhaust is almost good. It's missing a stud, but look at this tranny. Whew. She is like broken and twisted, and like look at that. That's like an inch gap back there. Not having a good time. The electric power steering rack's broken. I just put all the stuff in here, which I could use pieces off of, but probably not. I could get another case for that tranny and just put all the guts in it into the new case, but not worried about it. It's too much work for, you know, a couple $1,000. So what I'm going to do now is actually get the rear suspension and the fuel tank out of the Durango, because I need to get the lower control arms off the rear. That's a whole purpose behind stripping this. So it'll be really easy. Drop that out, drop the fuel tank out. I need some gas for my pressure washer. I think this has a full tank of gas, which is really nice. So I'll have plenty of pressure washer fuel, because it's probably not 91. It's probably like 85 or something. But this was from up north, so it might be, maybe 87 is the lowest they have up there. Maybe it might be 93, which would be really nice. But yeah, also another reason I stripped this thing was because look at all these bolts I have. I love bolts. If you know Dodges and you've ever gone to buy a bolt from Dodge, they're way too expensive. Like that pile of bolts, like $1,000. So, you know, to me, it's just nice having them around because I do a bunch of fabrication and stuff. So it's really nice having different threads and different length bolts. But let's get all this stuff out of here. I'll probably drop the spare tire in the spare tire little wheel well thing, and we'll get everything thrown in the car. Once I get the subframe out, I'll pull the lower control arms and then just throw that whole thing as an assembly into that pickup box. So then it's, you know, if I need anything off of it, I could pull it, but I really don't need to pull it all the way apart like I did the front. The only reason I did the front like that was because the engine was in there and a lot of stuff was just really smashed, and I want to make sure I could find good stuff if it was good, or bad stuff if it was bad. On this, since the drive shaft got hit so hard and everything got pushed back, since I lifted it up on the lift, the diff mount on the back of the diff is actually broken. So everything's like 75%. So let's get this out of here. Just finished stripping the whole rear of the Durango, and man, this thing was pretty bad. So the rear subframe bolts, the front two were bent as well. This rear subframe is no good. The diff mount broken off of it. Like everything else, I could buy this rear half of the case and fix it, but I'm just going to throw it in the box. One of the bolts wouldn't come out, so I cut it off. The drive shaft was completely toast, but it's really nice that this subframe isn't any good, because then I could cut these mounts off and use them for the fixture to make the lower control arms. So I'm really happy that I have the lower control arms off now, because that is like the final piece to the rear suspension on the Charger, get the lower control arms made, and then I could just literally bolt everything, torque everything down. She is ready to go on the rear. But need to make those lower control arms, and what I need to do is pretty much keep everything the same, but the pickup point for the rear coilover needs to be right here, and there needs to be a little thing, so it needs a pickup right here. It won't be that big of a deal. I'll make the lower control arms, then I need to send off my last final, or one of my last final orders for the rear and the front subframe to Sencut Send, which will include these mounts for the lower control arms, so I can get all that welded together, get it powder coated, we can get it on the car, then I can put all the brake pads, all the brake lines, everything in the back, as well as connect the parking brake. I finally got that parking brake from the Mopar parts store that's online. I'll link them in the description. I'm working with them. They're great. He helps me get everything that I need for Hellcats really, really quick, but it's just a lot of work. So that final order to Sencut Send will finish up this subframe. I have all of these. Look at that. We have the mounts. I haven't posted this video yet. You'll see this a little bit before it's actually done. Have that tied in. Have that tied in. I accidentally made this. I made the sheet metal part backwards, so I need to have them remake this as well. So I'll have that in the final order, but everything else on the front subframe is done and ready to go, ready to get welded up. But one other cool thing was the Durango's fuel tank is completely full of fuel. I think it's 93. It smells like 93, but really happy that I have another fuel tank. So I have this fuel tank. I have the SRT Grand Cherokee fuel tank. I have 3 Charger fuel tanks. I have a Charger Hellcat fuel tank. A lot of fuel tanks. And right now it seems like a lot of people are getting their fuel tanks drilled so people can take the gas out of them. So it's just really nice to have a bunch of fuel tanks. Just probably, you know, just not to have, just to sell. So I could get rid of those. I could get the gas out of this. I was planning on just using this on my, I was going to use it for my pressure washer because I never have gas for it. So I have a 5-gallon drug I brought. I was going to just pump it full, but I think it's like 16 gallons in here. So I'll have to bring 2 other jugs. Probably end up putting this in like the 300ZX or the WRX, something that really doesn't need 91, but it might be 91. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but just happy that we're getting really close to having the Charger 100% buttoned up in the rear, because this had to happen. I probably, like I said before, I probably should have done this when I first got the Durango, but I bought this Durango just for the hatch and the taillights and a few miscellaneous parts in here and there, like a door glass, some miscellaneous interior pieces. You know, if I would have pulled this out when I first got it, there wouldn't have been any rust in the cylinders. But, you know, it's still a good short block. Just, you know, I have it listed for really cheap. But glad that subframe's best up. Glad we have the control arms off. I'm going to end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.